Anyway, songwriting. Um, yeah, songwriting. I do this, and I was just kind of messing around and realizing. So I just have a style, right? Like I think we all do. And my style is just my style. I write in three different keys typically. This guitar's in D standard. Typically, the three keys I write in are let's pretend it's an E. I always talk about the guitar like it's E, just period. Even though I did my new record in B, this that's always E in my mind. So I write in E minor, I write in A minor, and I write in D minor, right? And that's kind of all I write in. And there's a reason I do that because my style is sort of fugazi sloppy, and I like to jangle a lot. So like I can just make some shit up, and I just know my way around those keys so well that I rarely have anything that's like in between, like that just doesn't feel right when I go. Like I'm usually looking for like a mood or a movement, and sometimes I don't know until I'm just playing. And I think if I wrote, I guess I could expand my keys, but I like these ones because I can get everything to rake. All good, right? Like the whole fucking thing sings. So if I was gonna go in, E minor, like the non-diatonic. Something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I just go with what works. I like to play really dynamically. I know that if I've tried to write with like amp sims and stuff, I usually just make a mess. I find if I have too much gain for my style when I'm writing, it doesn't possess the nuance that I want it to. And usually, I guess we sort of tried this experiment when we were writing the new Death of a Nation record out in California. Andy was warming up, and I was just like, okay, let me plug into like the Soldano sim, which sounds pretty good, whatever. And I noticed because the sim was so like distorted, just like so undynamic, and it doesn't lend itself to like these, very well. It's very good for like stuff. I was writing simpler intervals, and that was just because like it just doesn't work with more complex intervals. So I was just probably writing like maybe even that, like that's a minor third, but like just like shit like that didn't sing as much. And when I showed my drummer, like he'd be warming up, come in, and like I would sit down, I just fucking rock through some stuff. My assistant Dave was there, and yeah, and I would just start playing whatever, and we're like, oh that's cool, oh that's cool, oh that's cool. We threw most of it out. Like I could just tell because Andy would listen to it. Maybe it was just he couldn't hear through the distortion, and so when I played it back, it just probably just sounded like he didn't know what was coming next. He couldn't hear, like there's certain things that I'll do with my right hand. I would say quite a bit of things that's gonna like inform a drummer of like when they would build and when they would inflect. Like if I was like right? Like all of that information that we hear with the right hand is like basically telling, Andy that's going to be, some variation of that, and that like, yeah. So I found that to be really informative too. I don't like to have I usually don't like to have anybody else writing, no other guitars and maybe bass present. Like we wrote a few songs with Dave, my assistant, who played bass, and that was good because we kind of let him lead the charge. And here's what was interesting about that actually. We let Dave pick the melodic composition and be the driver of the song. So what I did in turn was like I went right up the neck and I just played straight up like leads over it. I made sure to stay out of the way of all the root notes because I know when I'm writing songs, I can't have that like latency or that lag of another dude that I have to worry about him knowing what I'm going to do when I don't really fucking even know what I'm going to do until like right when I do it. So for that reason, I just like one person to be the driver of the general underlying melodic composition. I guess, you could have a fluffer guy fucking doing leads and shit, but all that stuff can come later. I think the feel for me and how I write really comes from, I don't know, just fucking doing it. So with that being said, that's more or less how I write songs. And then we add and layer stuff on top of that. For example, like working on the new Death of a Nation record, it's been great to bring Matt in, our other guitar player. And he really, really will reimagine the chords. So what's cool is like everyone's got like their own like chord formations. It's like I lean on like this shape a lot, like this type of fucking, like that type of stuff a lot. He doesn't do any of that shit. And so he'll lean on his shapes. I don't even know what they are, right? And it sounds awesome. And then as we start to put that structure together, the vocalist will come in, Quinn will come in and start to do their thing. And that informs it too. And one really cool thing about being the producer and songwriter is that we're just always recompositioning and we take no prisoners when it comes to structure. So I think, you can kind of think of it as really like, we do really start from like a rough draft, like a very rough draft. And from there, we then just refine and refine and refine. And yeah, that's, hopefully that answers your question about that.